I'm joined here by an excellent panel of some of our top people at IATA. So we have our Director General, Willie Walsh. We have our Senior Vice President for Sustainability and Chief Economist, Marie Owens-Thompson. And we have Andrew Matters, Director of Policy Standards in the Sustainability and Economics Division. So between us, we'll take you through the first couple of hours of today. And in terms of starting that, I'll ask a few questions of the panel just to gather some, I guess, feeling for the main issues that we've been looking at over the past year and to get some reflections on that. So with that in mind, perhaps, Willie, the first question is to you. And looking at 2023, how would you characterize the year, given that we're in December now, so most of it's behind us?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Geneva. Thank you for joining us today. I think 2023 has been a good year for the industry. Certainly, the recovery gained significant momentum as we went through the year. We were surprised by the early opening of China, which came as a very pleasant surprise, and we've seen traffic significantly increase in that region, which is certainly a positive. So it won't surprise you that when Marie gives her presentation, we will be looking at upgrading the profitability forecast for 2023. Now, we've always got to put profitability in the airline industry into context, because although it sounds like a big figure when you look at it on an aggregate basis across the industry, in margin terms, we're still significantly below where we need to be and significantly below where we were prior to the pandemic. But in the main, I would say that a good year, frustrating for many airlines because of issues outside of their control. So we continue to see a lot of air traffic control disruption, principally in the US and to a lesser degree in Europe. We had a lot of supply chain issues, which has significantly impacted the capacity that airlines would have wanted to have put into the market. So the traffic growth during the year saw demand slightly outstripping the capacity. It was broadly flat, but I think we would have seen more capacity coming into the market had the supply chain issues not impacted. Very disappointing to see the latest problem with the GTF, which will impact on airline capacity in 2024 and probably in 2025 based on the latest assessment that we have. So OEMs continue to disappoint with delays in the delivery of new aircraft, but also getting access to spare parts for aircraft in service and getting aircraft that are going through maintenance back into service as quickly as possible. So, frustrating to see these issues. But in the main, I think most of the industry is cautiously optimistic as we come towards the end of 2023 and look forward to 2024.
Okay, thanks, Willie. Maybe a question more focused on IATA, but our membership numbers have increased significantly recently. They're up to 321, I think, the last I saw. Is there anything behind that or any strategy behind that, Willie?
Yeah, I'm really pleased. We've seen a significant increase in member airlines, which is always a positive, and a good mix of business models joining the association as well. I think many people have traditionally looked at us as the representative body for the traditional flag carriers and network carriers. We have now a significant number of low-cost airlines who are members, and indeed many others are in discussions with us to better understand what it is IATA can do for them. So I'm pleased that we're seen as an organization that's there to serve our members and to represent our members, and strong membership growth during the year. So I think the industry recognizes the challenges that we're facing going forward, particularly in the area of sustainability. And that's an area where IATA can contribute to members' learnings in relation to the issues and provide support and data to assist them in their journey to net zero in 2050. So a good year for us internally for IATA, and again, looking at the pipeline of potential new members going into 2024, that's very encouraging as well.
Okay, thank you. Also, I'm conscious that as we're ending 23, we've got 2024 and getting very close to 2025, which is when a lot of you will have heard of our 25 by 2025 initiative on gender diversity. We welcomed our first female chair of the Board of Governors this year. We see increasing female participation in senior ranks in the industry. For those who were at the AGM, you would have noticed a very gender-balanced presentation on the panels. But Willie, do you think we're moving fast enough and getting close enough to the targets we've set ourselves?
I think we're moving in the right direction, and it is important to hit that target in 2025, and I've no doubt that we will hit it. It would be great to see us moving a lot faster, because I think this battle for talent as we go forward is going to be one of the issues that challenge the industry in the near to medium term. We've seen a lot of talent leave the industry through the period of the pandemic, and we're hearing, increasing concerns about access to talent in areas like mechanics, engineers. Less so with pilots. I think the pilot issue is pretty much a US specific issue. We don't see the same concerns being expressed in other parts of the world. But I think where we lost talent on the technical side, where people have options to go to other industries, we've struggled to regain or recover some of those people into the industry. And given that it's an area, the technical side of the business tends to be dominated by men, where, clearly we have to do a better job there. We have to be seen as an industry that is attractive to men and women, boys and girls, to ensure that we have a steady pipeline of talent coming through in the technical areas. And I think that's the area where we will need to focus a lot of our attention in the next few years. So we're making good progress in senior positions within the industry. We will, I've no doubt, hit the target of 25 by 2025. We're on target within IATA to achieve our internal target, which is the same. So it's not just about looking to our member airlines to deliver on the commitment. But the one area where I think we do have to do a much better job is in attracting more female talent into the technical side of the business. And that's an area where I think we will be focused. Just trying to understand, is there something that we can collectively do as an industry to get the message out there that this is an exciting industry and attract more female talent into that particular field. So that's one area of concern that I think people are expressing to me in relation to the gender balance issue and ensuring that we have a steady pipeline of talent coming into the industry.
Okay, great, thank you. Another issue that IATA has been very active on is accessibility of air transport. Just as a reminder, we've got a very short video.
15% of the world's population, approximately 1 billion people, live with some form of disability, including so-called invisible disabilities such as deafness or autism. As populations age, this important customer group will grow. Already some airports report increases in assistance requests of 30%. In the light of this, reducing confusion with globally harmonised regulations will help both travellers and airlines. Work with disability organisations resulted in an IATA resolution on passengers with disabilities in 2019 that achieved 3 important outcomes. Firstly, it set principles through which airlines recommitted to provide safe, reliable and dignified travel for people with disabilities. Secondly, it asked governments to use the principles when making legislation. And thirdly, it requested ICAO use these principles as the basis for multilateral initiatives. Challenges include providing for the different types of assistance needed and safely loading mobility aids onto aircraft. IATA has worked with airlines, mobility aid manufacturers, ground service providers, airports and accessibility organisations to produce guidelines for handling wheelchairs.
Our goal is to make air travel more accessible with practical measures. The more governments that align their regulations with the IATA principles, the more people with disabilities will have the confidence to travel.
So, Willie, one question that comes to my mind is this we saw the numbers of people with disabilities there, 15 billion, I think it said. Is this a business opportunity for the airlines? Is it a regulatory challenge for the airlines? How would you characterize it?
It's both. It clearly is a business opportunity with what we all expect to see in years ahead with increasing numbers of disability issues being faced by people and a clear desire on their part to travel. So I think the industry, we do a reasonable job. We've clearly had some high-profile failures which tend to attract a lot of attention, and that has triggered us into action. The 2019 commitment that the industry made, we debated this at our recent Board of Governors here in Geneva last Friday, and the board recommitted to the principles that we'd agreed in 2019 and debated whether there's more that we can do as an industry. Because it's clear that there are opportunities to improve our performance as an industry, and there is a business opportunity in attracting more people to fly with us. I think there is some frustration at the lack of harmonization globally, and that's both on the part of airlines, but also on the part of our customers. They're unclear as to what to expect. So there is more work that we need to do, and I think this is an area where the industry, working with regulators, working with governments, working with ICAO, to agree on global standards, global regulations, so as to remove any confusion would be a very positive step forward. So we're looking at bringing a resolution to our AGM in Dubai next year to reaffirm the commitment on the part of the industry. Because as we said in that video, we want to be able to offer people the ability to travel in a safe, efficient and dignified manner. And as I said, I think some of the high-profile failures that we've seen in the industry do bring into question the dignified manner in which people with disabilities have been handled. The industry, I think, does in the main a good job, but clearly we believe there's more that we can do, and we should always be striving to do better, recognizing that this is both a responsibility that we have, but also an opportunity that the industry has in making ourselves more attractive to people with disabilities, to give them, as I said in the video, the confidence to fly in the future. So you should expect us to continue to focus on this issue, and we will be debating the subject at our AGM in Dubai.
Okay, great. We'll change tracks a little bit. This past, I suppose, 2023 operationally, with a few exceptions, seemed better than 2022. But in my mind, I also have the UK NATS failure at the end of the summer period as kind of a glowing example of maybe where the industry didn't, or parts of the industry didn't step up. Maybe just to remind us of that, we have a short video and then we'll get some comments on that.
Last summer, airlines were forced to cancel over 1,500 flights because of a failure at the UK's air navigation services provider. Thousands of passengers had their travel plans thrown into chaos, with many left stranded. It was nearly a week before schedules returned to normal. Despite the problem being caused by the air traffic control failure, under the current passenger rights regime in Europe, only airlines were held financially responsible to air travellers for care and assistance. Nor were airlines compensated for costs of crews out of position or extra flights laid on. The only cost to UK NATS for its blunder was an apology, which gives little incentive to make improvements. Airlines are arguing for a reset. The current system isn't fair and doesn't lead to better overall performance, which is what passengers and airlines want. One element of the solution is shared accountability. Every player of the aviation system should take its share of responsibility when things go wrong. This will provide a fairer and more transparent structure for both passengers and the airline sector. In an independent study commissioned by IATA, 91% of travellers agreed with the statement, all parties involved in the delay or cancellation should play a role in helping the affected passengers. Things do and can go wrong, and when they do, a fit-for-purpose consumer rights regime would incentivise better performance for all participants in the air travel chain, not just airlines.
So, Willie, I guess the first thing is, did we do better in 23 than we did in 22? And the second is, what are your thoughts on that idea of shared accountability?
Yeah, certainly the performance of the industry was better. The issues we faced in 2022, where there was clear evidence of manpower shortages, resource shortages, principally at airports, but also at some airlines, was largely addressed. And I think we do need to recognise that most airports functioned a lot better in 2023 than they did in 2022. It is still incredibly frustrating that we face incompetence on the part of some providers like NATS, who quite honestly, their performance this year has been appalling. Not just the failure that we witnessed there, the investigation that they did into that failure, the weak response from NATS in terms of what they did, what they got wrong, how they recovered, very disappointing to see. And that event cost the industry hundreds of millions of pounds. And as I said previously, not a single penny of that was borne by NATS. All of the cost of delays, compensation to passengers, which went on for some considerable time, was borne by the industry. Now, we have to be careful in relation to this, because this idea of shared responsibility is very important. But what we need, though, is also a review of the regulatory model, because what's likely to happen if we don't see the regulatory model reviewed is if we can succeed in getting service providers like NATS or indeed some airports to bear the cost of their mistakes, it must not be then the case that they can recover that cost through increased air traffic charges or airport charges, which in effect is what the regulatory model would allow them to do. What we have to do is, look to see these service providers who have disappointed us significantly in 22 and 23 to be forced to bear the cost, but for that cost to be ring-fenced so that they can't then go and try and recover that from the airlines who suffered all the damage. And we debated this with the Board of Governors again last Friday. Our board members are keen for us to pursue this, but are cautious about the need to ensure that, particularly in the case of air navigation service providers, that they don't then have the option of just paying the bill for their cock-up, but recovering the cost of that through increased charges, which is typically the way they operate. So this is an area that must be addressed. I think the regulations that were introduced back in 2004, the 261, these were well-intentioned. I think the regulation has been interpreted by courts because of the poor language that was used in that regulation. I think what we have today bears little resemblance to what was intended when the regulation was first introduced. But it is very frustrating that we see airlines being forced to pick up the bill for failures, weak performance, incompetent management when it comes to some of these airports and ANSPs. But that is particularly the case with NATS. A very, very poor performance by NATS in 2023. We demand a better performance from them in 2024. But I'm not seeing any evidence of a clear understanding on their part of the need to address the issues that led to the failures that we witnessed in 2023.
Okay. While we're on the topic of charges, you've been in the past very vocal on airports and the way that they charge airlines for their services. Do you sense any progress in 2023 in airports understanding what the airlines want?
No. I think airports still struggle to appreciate the need to act in a commercial fashion. They are, in most cases, regulated monopolies or quasi-monopolies who have little incentive to perform in an efficient manner. And we'll have to continue as an industry to focus on this. We've seen many airports around the world look to significantly increase their charges in 2023 and in 2024, way beyond what can be justified by the inflationary issues that we've all faced during 2023. And I know Murray will talk to some degree about this as well. It is important for us to have a fair system. We continue to call on the EU to look at the Airport Charges Directive to give that some teeth to enable the EU to require airports to act in a more efficient manner. And where competition doesn't address the charges, and that's certainly the case with our navigation service providers and most airports, then you have to have strong regulation to replicate a competitive landscape in the same way as airlines face intense competition pretty much everywhere they operate. So there's still a big gap between what we as airlines have to do and what we see airports doing when it comes to charges, efficiency, and looking to ensure that everyone is acting in a commercial manner in the interests of our customers. Airports are too quick to dismiss the impact of their charges on ticket prices. And, as you'll see in the presentation that Murray will give, the margins for the airline industry are wafer thin. So anything that increases the cost base for airlines will automatically have to be passed through to consumers through charges. And that's something that airports just don't understand. So it is disappointing. We're fighting hard on this. We are seeing some positives from regulators, and we've succeeded in some of the legal cases that we've taken. But many of these are ongoing. But we will continue to act in the interests of airlines and consumers to ensure that airport charges are minimized and that the regulatory environment tries to replicate a competitive landscape to force them to act in a more commercial manner.
Okay, great. Sticking with the topic of airports, this year Amsterdam was very much in the headlines for reasons other than charges, but the slot issue and the noise issue. I'm sure people have followed it, but maybe just to refresh our memory, we can play a short video and then we'll get some comments.
The global aviation community was stunned in 2022 when the Dutch government decided to cut annual flights at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport by 12%. It wanted to reduce noise impact on the local community, but in doing so, it ignored the globally agreed balanced approach which manages aircraft noise issues. Fortunately, the government backed down, at least temporarily, in the face of strong opposition from key trading partners, including the United States as well as the European Commission. The incident has, however, re-emphasised the importance of the balanced approach. This process is enshrined in many legal frameworks, including the Chicago Convention, European law, and the historic US-EU Open Skies Agreement. Its aim is to manage aircraft noise while protecting the benefits of aviation and consists of 4 steps. Firstly, noise should be managed at source, which means developing and deploying quieter engines and airframes. And in fact, aircraft have become 75% quieter over the last 60 years. Secondly, land use planning should limit the growth of populations affected by noise. Noise-proofing residences could also be an option. Next, operational measures should be explored, such as continuous descent approaches which reduce noise, and only if these steps fail to achieve the noise reduction target can operational restrictions, such as limiting the number of flights, be used. With the balanced approach, the industry's track record on noise is solid. Importantly, this demonstrates that improvements in noise can be achieved without sacrificing the jobs and economic activity that aviation generates and on which local communities rely.
So I guess 2 questions come to mind for that. One is, are you satisfied with the resolution that we achieved in Amsterdam? And are you concerned that it's kind of setting the scene for other airports or other governments to take similar measures?
I have to be honest, I was very surprised when the government in the Netherlands did what they did. Given the importance of Schiphol to the economy of that country and the value that the hub brings to local business. We've often talked about the value of hub airports and the importance of providing direct connectivity for business investment. Schiphol punches way above its weight given the local origin and destination market that exists there. It's a fantastic hub airport. Yes, it had challenges in 2022, but I think the impact that it would have had the government not backed down would have been really significant. I think it would have undermined the whole integrity of the hub operation there. It clearly would have had a bigger impact on KLM than most other airlines, although it would have impacted on all airlines operating there. I think what was encouraging from an industry point of view is that everybody in the industry opposed what was happening. So you might have expected some people to see this as a competitive opportunity. The dismantling of the Amsterdam hub would have benefited some of the other hubs in Europe, but nobody took that view. They all took the view that this was wrong and that the industry had to stand together. So I was very pleased that that happened. Now, we have to recognize, noise is an issue, and we all know that this is an issue that airlines and airports have been dealing with for many years. What is very frustrating, though, is when you look at the number of people impacted by noise from other forms of transport, it way exceeds the number of people impacted by noise from air. So, the European Environment Agency produces a report. Now, the last data is 2017. I think it's due to be updated for 2022. But there are more people, 4 times the number of people impacted by noise from rail than noise from air, and about 30 times the number of people impacted by noise from roads than noise from air. And yet, air travel is the one that seems to get all of the attention. So, when we're looking at environmental issues, it's important that we consider all aspects of the environment. But if the government was serious that this was about noise, there were a lot of things they could have done before taking the extreme measure of reducing the slots. And I think it was on that basis that we succeeded in demonstrating that they hadn't fulfilled their legal obligations to follow the process of the balanced approach process that we've outlined there. And I think it was highly embarrassing for the government to be forced to back down in the face of criticism from the US Department of Transportation and indeed the European Commission as well, who wrote what I think was a very strong worded letter of criticism of what was happening in Amsterdam. So some progress being made. We're not seeing a similar approach being adopted in other major European airports. I think there are some airports struggling with some issues. Dublin Airport has a challenge, but their challenge is a passenger cap, which is down to surface road access to the airport. It's not a noise issue. It's interpreted by some as being noise. It's not. The restriction is on surface access to the airport, and that's why there was a planning cap on the number of passengers at Dublin Airport, which the airport authority is addressing at the moment. So disappointing to see what happened. I'm pleased that the government has backed down. I'm hopeful that there will be a better understanding of the process that needs to be followed, and that we won't see other governments embarrassing themselves by reaching for solutions that they think will be popular, but fail to fulfill the obligations, the legal obligations that they have.
The whole issue also brought some, I guess, attention to slots and the importance of the slot allocation system. I guess 2 questions from that. One is, do you think that governments understand the value of the slot system, what it brings, and what it brings both to airlines and to local economies and consumers? And are you concerned that governments like the UK, for example, are starting to look at the slot rules that they have?
Yeah, I think slot allocation is a very complex issue that isn't fully understood by a lot of people. It really is a very fine, integrated system that needs to be carefully addressed, because one airport undoing the slot allocation rules can have a global impact. You know, Heathrow would have a global impact, and without question, governments need to be very sensitive in how they address these issues. I don't think there's a full appreciation for how effective the slot rules are. And if you recall, slot rules are a system that's independently regulated. We have slot regulators at most of the slot-constrained airports. The World Airline Slot Guidelines are guidelines that have been drawn up by airports and airlines working together. So it's not an airline issue. Sometimes it's interpreted as this system developed by airlines for the benefit of airlines. It's not. It's a system developed jointly by everybody involved to ensure that the allocation of scarce resources can be done in the most efficient way possible. And unwinding the rules that have been in place successfully for many years, I think, is something that I would highly discourage. That's not to say we can't improve things. We've seen various minor amendments to the rules over the years, so there's always scope to look at better ways of doing it. But to fundamentally dismantle a system that has been very effective, I think is something that governments should be very cautious and wary of. So I pay less attention to what the UK government does today than I used to, and that's probably the case with just about everybody in the world, given the state of politics in the Conservative Party at the moment. So we'll wait and see what happens.